Alright everyone, I don't think I even need to ask how you're all feeling this fine Monday. If you're anything like me, you will have bounced into the new week feeling fantastic and knowing that this coming week has the potential to be unbelievably good. In fact, it's probably not even potential. Let's face it, it's going to be unbelievable. And we're going to kick-start it all with an unbelievable video. We're going to look back a bit at the derby. There's a few things that I've spotted, having rewatched the game, a few things I want to say, a few things that Brendan Rodgers wanted to say. We'll also have a recap of the awards event, the Player of the Year event at the Hydro last night with, I think, 11,000 Celtic fans in attendance. And as I just mentioned there, we may look ahead to the small matter of a title party at Rugby Park on Wednesday night. Yeah, it's going to be a good one. Before we get started today, just a quick sponsor shout out. Not ever done this before, but it's something that's very close to my heart and yours as well.
This video is brought to you by John Lundstrom, making Celtic dreams come true.
Brilliant patter. Nearly took the afternoon off earlier when I came up with that. Yeah, anyway, me and Stevie covered a fair bit of the chat after the game on Saturday. Check that video out if you've not already, just to see a buzzing Stevie outside the stadium. And yeah, I think we were pretty positive, extremely positive on that video. And I still feel the same way, to be honest. The positivity hasn't died down at all. If anything, it's got even greater. Having said that, like we're extremely kind of complimentary to the Celtic performance, but I wonder if we went far enough. I've rewatched the game kind of in parts over the past couple of days, and see that first half performance from Celtic, it was really, really good. In fact, better than that. I think the performance we put in the first half of the game on Saturday was as good as the 3-0 win and the 4-0 win under Ange Postecoglou. That's the level we got to. You know, players were buzzing around. James Forrest was getting the ball and looking dangerous and playing wee passes. Dyson Maeda was doing everything defensively, attacking wise. He was controlling 50-yard passes with the ball over his head. Callum McGregor was everywhere. Matt O'Reilly was just sublime. Hatate was fabulous. Kyogo was darting in and about. It was just a really top level performance from this Celtic team, and really we should have been well clear at half-time. When you consider like the chances we missed, so we had the one inside the first minute where I think John Souttar nearly scores an own goal and he's kind of spared by Jack Butland. They seem to want to score own goals on Saturday for some reason, Rangers. We also had, I mean, O'Reilly has two really close efforts before his goal. They had the free kick that's just wide and another effort from a similar area in open play that again he just puts wide of that right hand post. Callum McGregor had a similar one to that. He also had another one blocked and one right after that he put kind of over and wide. You know, really good clear cut shooting opportunities. Kyogo had one pretty close in that if he puts it anywhere but straight at Jack Butland, it's a goal. And obviously we score or two on top of all of that in the first half. So, I mean, it's surely fair to say we could have scored 5 or 6 in that first half alone, and that's before we even get to the second half and the penalty and Adam Ida's missed chances. I mean, people might look at that game and the fact it finished 2-1 and think, you know, it was a relatively close game. It was a total battering. For me, it was as one-sided as the 3-0 game, the 4-0 game, the 5-1 game in the Invincible season. It was as one-sided, if not more, than those games on Saturday. It was just the fact that we didn't have the finishing to go with our really good play. Thankfully, John Lundstrom was able to provide that though. See, just talking about the first goal, unbelievable. I put it to you right now that goal, Matt O'Reilly's goal on Saturday is the best goal Celtic have scored all season. And for some reason, that goal is not getting the credit that it deserves. I don't quite understand why. It all starts with James Tavernier, Captain Marvel, giving the ball away inside the Rangers attacking third. He gives it to Matt O'Reilly. 43 seconds later, Matt O'Reilly is firing the ball past Butland for our opening goal. In those 43 seconds, Celtic complete 14 passes in a row without a Rangers player getting close. 8 of our 11 outfielders are all involved in the goal. They all touch the ball in the attack. Joe Hart, Liam Scales and Daizen Maeda are the only 3 players not involved in that opening goal. I spent far too long on this kind of pass map earlier. Doesn't look like it, but it genuinely took me about an hour and a half to make, so we'll make some sort of use of it here. Yeah, the attack, as I say, starts there where it says start, funnily enough, with Matt O'Reilly collecting the ball. He knocks it back to Carter Vickers, and then we just kind of bob it around between Carter Vickers and McGregor. Carter Vickers surges forward, pops it into Kyogo, he pops it off to McGregor, then we work it left to Hatate, Taylor, and then we work it right, and that's where you see, the bit of the goal you'll remember with O'Reilly and Forrest and Alistair Johnson, and then Callum McGregor making that darting run in behind, the kind of run that we maybe don't see him make too much, but he seemed to really take responsibility and do that on Saturday. And to be honest, he tends to in these derbies. Anyway, he cuts back on his left, plays a lovely ball inside for O'Reilly, who takes one touch and just smashes it into the net. As I say, 14 passes, 8 different players involved, and a terrific finish. It is as good a goal as you will ever see Celtic score. And to do it in a fixture like this, I think is unbelievable. Why are more people not talking about the quality of this goal? Honestly, if you've got a spare 45 minutes, go and watch that first half performance. Obviously watch the full game, but especially if you can find a way to watch that first half again. Celtic were brilliant in that first half. And that goal, as I say, 43 seconds, find a way to watch that from start to finish because it is so good. And a few people comparing the finish from O'Reilly to one Stuart Armstrong scored against Rangers in the Invincible season. And yeah, it's definitely possible to see the comparisons, and it helps the fact it's into the exact same net, same part of the net as well at Celtic Park. From that point, we get our second goal. Thank you, John Lundstrom. Rangers get one back. They then get a red card. Thank you, John Lundstrom. And all 3 of those incidents, plus our first goal, happen in under 10 minutes. It was a crazy 10 minutes. The major incidents in the match all happened at that point. As I say, second half, I thought we started in the same way. It was more of the same. Complete Celtic dominance. We miss a penalty, which, is frustrating, but kind of hard to get annoyed at the moment. Daizen Maeda has, I think, 2 disallowed goals. They're both offside. Adam Ida misses 2 really good chances. One from our great Anthony Ralston cross, I want to say, where he just has to connect, and if he does, he scores. And the other one where he kind of goes past Raskin and slides it past the post. 2 really big chances for him. And yeah, as I say, it was as dominant as we've been against Rangers. And if that game had finished 5-1, they couldn't have had any complaints about that. If anything, they're extremely lucky that it was only 2-1. It was an incredibly flattering scoreline for them. And I know there was some nervy moments at the end of the match, but it was always going to be that way. I think rather than remember the last 5 minutes plus the 100 minutes of stoppage time that we ended up getting, just think of how dominant Celtic were in the rest of that game, even before they went down to 10 men. 10 men didn't really have much to do with it because we were completely dominant 11v11, and it fills me with a lot of confidence for the Scottish Cup final, but obviously that's for another day. And yeah, I guess the margin of victory doesn't really matter in the end. What does is the fact that we won the game and we're now 6 points clear with 2 to play. They must beat Dundee tomorrow night to stop us being crowned champions there and then. If they do beat Dundee, it'll roll on to us going to Kilmarnock the following night, Wednesday night, and we know that a win or a draw will see us crowned champions. And yeah, going away from home in the penultimate, second last match of the season in midweek, knowing you only need 1 point to be crowned champions, feels very familiar, doesn't it? It feels very Tannadice 2022. And yes, we'll have plenty of time to preview this match tomorrow and on Wednesday morning. But yeah, just going through players, James Forrest was fabulous. For me, potentially he was man of the match, but so much competition for that. Matt O'Reilly could have been man of the match. Callum McGregor could have been man of the match. Dyson Maeda could have been man of the match. Rio Hatate was brilliant. Kyogo was pretty lively. I thought the defence were pretty good. Carter Vickers was just that solid presence we're used to now. Greg Taylor had a good game. I think he got caught out a bit for the Rangers goal, and it's always that left-hand side of the defence. But it was just an immense effort from everyone on the pitch and in the stands, and Brendan Rodgers as well. And it's fair to say the manager had some things to say in the Celtic Park press room shortly after full time. We've kind of known in recent months that he's not been happy with the way he's been portrayed and the team have been portrayed in the media. And I think he felt it was his time to unload and let people know what he thought after the game as we close in on another league title. And by the way, Saturday was his 13th win in 17 games against Rangers. He's only lost one of those. It's an incredible record. He's quoted as saying, and these are very interesting quotes, "From a personal perspective, I am surprised in a way where I heard somebody saying Brendan Rodgers was going through the motions earlier in the season. I get to work between 7:30 and 8 o'clock every day of my life. I leave the training ground between 6:30 and 7 o'clock at night. And then when I get home, I have my dinner and probably flip on the computer and watch more football. Now, if that's going through the motions, I want to know what every other manager is doing. So from a personal level, I have been treated like a novice since I've come back here, like it's my first job. However, my principal objective is to make sure Celtic win. Part of that is a part of the criticism, and I understand that. But it's the mentality of the team that is most important to me, and that mentality you can see from where we were with injuries, how we progressed, how we stayed unified and together, and how we then get to this point where we are nearly crossing the finishing line. And we don't just want to cross it, we want to sprint over it. We have 2 games to go, plus a final, and that is our mentality. And I think Brendan Rodgers is totally right to have a bit of a pop back here. It's the right time, and I think some of the treatment he has had this season, mainly from the media, has been pretty bizarre, to be honest, when you consider who Brendan Rodgers is and the fact, how dominant he was in his first spell at the club. And constantly this season we've heard that, Rodgers won against a Rangers team filled with, terrible players, and all he could do was win, basically. And that he'd struggle this time going up against a proper Rangers team. He's not really struggling, is he? Sure, the league title's gone on a bit longer than it did during his first stint, but when you consider what we've had to deal with this season, now there's a few factors. And by the way, I should say I'm well aware we haven't clinched the league title yet, but please nobody in the comments say, "Oh, it's not won yet." At this point, we can say Celtic are going to get the point we need. We might not even need a point, given our goal difference in Rangers' form. I think it's fine to have this conversation at this stage. Anyway, you look at there's undoubtedly been a huge Ange Postecoglou hangover at Celtic this season, and it was probably always going to be that way, given the presence that he was. Listen, we all fell in love with him in the team during those 2 years. I certainly did. And I think when he left, even if we weren't dreaming of Ange and stuff like that, there just was a feeling at the club of a big presence having left. And I know Brendan Rodgers is a big presence as well, but it's different. And added to that, he'd already been at the club and he'd left in acrimonious circumstances. So there was a weird kind of feeling in the summer. And, you know, we felt it as fans. The players will have felt it. And nobody can deny the first 6 months of the season they were a bit of a come down from the highs that we'd experienced in the previous 2 years. But I think certainly over the last couple of months, if not longer, we've found out that a lot of people had written Brendan Rodgers off as yesterday's man, and that his kind of methods wouldn't work anymore and he was finished and all of that. I think he's, proven unequivocally over the past couple of months that was just nonsense. Rodgers is here at Celtic to achieve more great things. And it feels to me now like the start of something big and something new rather than the end of something like many people were portraying a couple of months ago. And I'm not saying that this season has been perfect. There have been so many kind of disappointing games and performances that haven't been acceptable and things at the club, recruitment that haven't been acceptable. But I do think lots of these things will get better. I certainly have a positive outlook that the recruitment will hopefully be better in the summer, with Rodgers appearing to have his own people in now, and some of the people responsible for the recruitment this season leaving the club. But yeah, I mean, injuries have been horrendous. I mean, what key player haven't we had missing for a sustained period this season? Maybe Kyogo. I can't remember if Kyogo's missed any time, but like virtually every other player, Hatate, McGregor, Carter Vickers, Johnston, Maida, James Forrest for a kind of different reason. I guess Joe Hart's been around all season, but virtually all of our key players have been missing this season. And the recruitment, as we say, has been like non-existent. No player signed this season started the game on Saturday. It was 11 players who had already been at the club prior to this season who started the game on Saturday. And that's a major concern, but it's also a major compliment, I guess, to Brendan Rodgers and these players for managing to win the league. Rodgers has won the league with Postecoglou's squad, basically, effectively. Imagine when he gets his own players in next season, and we're kind of all over the Ange hangover that's definitely been a factor. Basically what I'm saying is this season has been a drag generally up until probably when I started the channel, and I'm not saying there's any correlation between me starting Celtic AM and Celtic winning the league, but someone check out our fortunes prior to the channel coming back. But I just think generally it's not been a great season at all for large parts, but the team over the past few months have made it a very memorable season, and we've still got a league to clinch and hopefully a Scottish Cup to win. And I just think there is actually quite a bright future under Brendan Rodgers for however long that lasts. But I think next season, I'm already looking forward to it. A big part of winning the league is qualifying for the UEFA Champions League. When we do that, we'll have 8 matches next season as opposed to the normal 6. I'm just buzzing for that. 8 just feels quite substantial and you can really get into it. And as much as the results maybe weren't great in Europe this season, I don't think the team were a million miles away. I mean, you look at the home games, I think we should probably have got 7 points from 9 based on how we played. We obviously got 4. So I think there's real positivity to come. We've got a top manager at the club and some top players. And I think sometimes we maybe need to ignore the media noise and the negativity and remember that. And remember that even in this really tough season, with all of that stuff going on that I've just outlined, the team have still got the job done in the league. Well, not yet, but, that's a matter of days away. Right, I've spoken for very, very long, and this video is going to go out quite late, so apologies, but it's just one of those days. Player of the Year awards were last night at the Hydro. 11,000 Celtic fans in attendance. It was a collection of hoop stars past and present to celebrate the 20th year of the Celtic Player of the Year awards. Some very weird interview collabs like Odsonne Edouard and Georgios Samaras. Yep, as well as an even weirder one, Sean Maloney, Kyogo Furuhashi and Stilian Petrov. Anyway, Matt O'Reilly was the big winner, but we'll come on to that in a wee second. In order, these are the awards and who they were won by, and there's a lot here, so I'm not going to spend too long on them. Academy Player of the Year was Daniel Kelly, well deserved. Tash Flint won the Celtic FC Women's Goal of the Season for her strike, a pretty good team goal at Ibrox against Rangers. Kyogo won the first team top goal scorer award, while Amy Gallagher picked that up for the women's team. The late Celtic author David Potter was awarded the Special Recognition Award, picked up by his wife Rosemary. Great stuff, hugely well deserved for him. Young Player of the Year was Matt O'Reilly for the second straight season. Celtic Women's Player of the Year was Amy Gallagher. By the way, she is the great-granddaughter of one of the early legends of Celtic, Patsy Gallagher. Did you know that? Kyogo's strike against Rangers in December won the Goal of the Season award, although I do think that Saturday should have been a late entry there. Legendary Goal of the Season award won by Shunsuke Nakamura for his free kick against Manchester United back in the Champions League in 2006. He wasn't there, so Gordon Strachan collected the award on his behalf. Matt O'Reilly won the Men's Player of the Year, so the second award for O'Reilly. Scott Brown was the winner of the Legendary Player of the Year award, voted for by the fans. He also couldn't be there, so that award was picked up by Neil Lennon and Charlie Mulgrew. Neil Lennon back is kind of interesting. I don't know if he's done a Celtic event since he left the club. He got a pretty good reaction, I think, so that's good to see. Celtic Women's Player of the Year was Caitlin Hayes, second year in a row. Whenever you see the women's team play, which for me admittedly is not that often, maybe 4 or 5 times a season, Caitlin Hayes seems to be the best player every time I see. Just so consistent, doesn't really give the ball away, and obviously pops up with goals pretty regularly for a defender, so well done to her. The Outstanding Contribution Award was won by Henrik Larsson. He was present and got the biggest cheer of the night from the Celtic fans inside the Hydro. The Men's Player of the Year award was won by Matt O'Reilly, clinching a hat-trick for him on the night. Joe Hart was invited up onto stage. He got a big reception. Brendan Rodgers too. Ronnie Dyler was there as well. As I say, Samaras and Edouard were there. I believe most of these people had been invited to the derby the previous day as well. Edouard wasn't there because I think Crystal Palace had a game on Saturday. Celtic women's manager Elena Sadiku got a photo with her fellow Swede Henrik Larsson and was buzzing about it, tweeting, "What an evening, the best club with the best fans, and to meet the King of Kings made the night just perfect." We also had Kyogo meeting Henrik. Yeah, amazing photo there. So it seems like the night was a pretty big success. As I say, it was the 20th year of the Celtic Player of the Year award, so they went big at the Hydro. I must say I was pretty sceptical originally, but then again they announced it, I think, at a point where the team weren't performing well on the pitch, and it's funny the difference the team winning has on everyone's mindset regarding virtually every announcement, and I think the fact they kind of made it a current and past legends type night was a pretty good idea. Got some very big names in and sold out the Hydro. I mean, it's a pretty big achievement. I wonder where they go from there, because obviously next year you can't really do it all again, but as I say, this was a 20th anniversary special, so interesting. And yeah, great night had by all. I'm guessing many of you would have been there, so let me know in the comments how last night was. Pretty good, I would say, after Saturday's result. And yeah, that's it. Everything seems pretty good in the world regarding Celtic right now. And as I say, we have a midweek match to look forward to. The first one since we beat Dundee 7-1 in late February. And it's a pretty big midweek match as well, with the potential for us to be champions. We'll start building ahead to that one tomorrow. In the meantime, as a big thank you to me, and because we're all in a good mood, please consider subscribing to the channel. I'll put my finger down, it's a bit rude. If you've not done it yet, we're well over 6,000 now. We're going for a magnificent 7 before title weekend, because that just makes sense. Speak to you all tomorrow.